What if I told you some of Hollywood's greatest actors have never seen the films that made them legends? One of them won an Oscar for a role he's never watched. One went 22 years without sitting through a single one of his own movies. One admits that watching herself would send her into a spiral of self-hate. These aren't unknown actors. These are the faces you've cried with, laughed with, and fallen in love with on screen, yet they refuse to watch their own work. And the real reasons behind it are far deeper and far more human than you'd ever expect. Let's start with one of the most shocking examples of all, Joaquin Phoenix. This man won the Best Actor Oscar for his unforgettable performance in Joker. The role consumed him. He lost over 50 pounds for it. He disappeared so deeply into that character that audiences around the world were left genuinely disturbed. And here's the wild part. He has reportedly never watched the finished film. In his entire career, Joaquin has only sat through 2 of his own movies, The Master and Her. That's it. Out of dozens of films, he's watched 2. He explained his reasoning by saying he never wants to see himself the way the camera sees him. He said that watching himself would have no value to him, and worse, it would actually risk damaging his future performances. He has to constantly tell himself no whenever he feels even slightly curious. For Joaquin, the magic of acting lives in the doing, not the watching. The moment he sees himself on screen, he believes a piece of that magic dies forever. Now hold on, because the next one might be the most surprising name on this entire video. Johnny Depp has spent over 40 years disappearing into some of the most memorable characters in cinema history. Captain Jack Sparrow, Edward Scissorhands, Willy Wonka, the Mad Hatter. And yet, this man generally avoids watching his own movies after they're released. His reasoning is honestly beautiful. He compares it to a magical spell being broken. He says that when he's building a character, he nurtures it for months, almost like raising something alive inside himself. He pours his whole imagination into making that character real in his own heart, and he believes that if he watches the finished film, that carefully built reality gets shattered. He has said in many interviews that his work is finished the moment the shoot ends. The character stays alive inside him forever, untouched, unspoiled, exactly the way he imagined it. Watching the movie would replace his beautiful private version with the version everybody else sees, and for an artist like Johnny Depp, that trade just isn't worth it. Speaking of legends who avoid the screen, the next one is genuinely heartwarming. Tom Hanks, possibly the most beloved actor in modern Hollywood, also refuses to watch his own movies. But his reasoning is different and very practical. He calls watching his own films a horrible mistake. He explained that when you watch your old performances, you never actually learn what you did right. You only learn what you did wrong. You only notice the mistakes, the awkward moments, the choices you'd take back. He also pointed out something kind of philosophical. He said the problem with old movies is that they never change. The performance is frozen forever. You can't fix it. You can't improve it. So watching it just fills you with regret over things you can never undo. For a man who has given us Forrest Gump, Castaway, Saving Private Ryan, and Toy Story, it's almost impossible to believe he's never enjoyed those performances the way the rest of the world has. But that's exactly how Tom Hanks protects his own peace of mind. Take a quick breath, because this next confession is surprisingly emotional. Reese Witherspoon, one of the smartest and most successful women in Hollywood, has one of the most honest reasons on this video. She openly admitted that she has complete amnesia about every movie she has ever made, and the reason is heartbreaking. She said that if she watched her own film, she would spiral into a state of self-hate. Those are her exact words, self-hate. This is a woman who won an Oscar, built a media empire, and became one of the highest paid actresses in the world. And yet, watching herself on screen fills her with so much self-criticism that she avoids it completely. She also gave a more lighthearted reason once, saying that since she's never going to play the exact same role again, there's really no point in going back to study it. But underneath that practical answer is a deeper truth. For Reese, watching herself isn't fun. It's painful, so she simply chooses not to. Now this next one comes from one of the most intense actors of his generation. Adam Driver, the star of Marriage Story and the Star Wars films, refuses to watch himself too. And his reason comes from his background. Adam came up through theater, where there are no replays. In a stage play you perform live, the curtain falls and the performance is gone forever. You never get to watch it back. So when he moved into film, the idea of watching himself on a giant screen just never felt natural to him. He said it simply never equated in his mind. He did make one rare exception though. He watched the final film in the Star Wars Skywalker saga because he felt he owed it to the fans and the story to see how his character's journey ended. But outside of that one exception, Adam Driver stays far away from his own work. He's so committed to this that he once famously walked out of an interview when they tried to play a clip of his own performance for him. Hold up, because the next actor took this to an extreme almost nobody can match. Jared Leto holds what might be the most impressive record in this entire video. This Oscar-winning actor reportedly went over 22 years without watching a single one of his own movies. Think about that, more than 2 decades. That covers nearly every iconic role of his entire career. He said the last full film he ever sat through was Requiem for a Dream, and the only reason he watched that one was because director Darren Aronofsky personally made him do it. Jared explained that he finds it far less stressful to avoid watching his scenes. If he doesn't watch, he can't start overthinking every little choice he made. He can't start wishing he'd done things differently. He just finishes the work, lets it go, and moves on to the next project completely free of self-doubt. Now here's a fun twist. He and Aronofsky are reuniting for a future project, which means he might be forced to break his decades-long streak all over again. Pause for a second, because this next actor gave one of the most thoughtful answers ever. Andrew Garfield, the beloved Spider-Man star, has a deeply artistic reason for avoiding his own films. He told an interviewer that he fears watching himself will kill a kind of magic he doesn't want to understand too clearly. He said that the moment he becomes aware of what he's doing as an actor, he becomes less open, less free, less alive in his performances. He worries that if he studies himself from the outside, he'll start performing for the camera instead of living truthfully in the moment. He did make one exception for The Social Network, which many people consider one of his finest films, but generally, Andrew protects that mystery on purpose. He wants acting to remain instinctive, emotional, and slightly mysterious even to himself, because the moment it becomes calculated, he believes it loses its soul. Let me give you a quick one, because this legend's reason is pure class. Al Pacino, one of the greatest actors who ever lived, keeps it simple. The man behind The Godfather, Scarface, and Heat said there's really no need for him to go back and watch his old films. He's already seen them once during the making. He knows what they are. And here's the beautiful part of his philosophy. He said if the film turns out good, he feels lucky, and if it turns out bad, it's just something he tries to forget. He did admit one charming exception. If one of his old movies happens to be playing on television, he might stop and watch a bit of it, but he never seeks them out on purpose. For a man with that many masterpieces behind him, that kind of humble detachment is honestly inspiring. Now this next confession is the most emotionally raw on this video. Megan Fox gave one of the most honest answers any celebrity has ever given about this topic. She said that for her, the desire to not watch herself goes way beyond simple discomfort. It crosses into genuine mental stress. She explained that most actors are deeply insecure people, and for her specifically, seeing herself on a giant screen triggers real anxiety. She built her entire career on being seen as a beauty icon, which makes it even harder because she becomes hypercritical of every tiny detail of her appearance and performance. So instead of putting herself through that mental torture, she just doesn't watch. It's a powerful reminder that even the people the world considers the most beautiful and confident are often fighting private battles with self-image that we never get to see. Stay with me, because this next one is a brilliant lesser-known star. Jesse Eisenberg, the star of The Social Network and A Real Pain, has one of the strictest personal rules in Hollywood. He doesn't watch anything he's been in. He doesn't read reviews of his films. He doesn't read analysis of his plays. Nothing. He completely seals himself off from the outside world's opinion of his work. His reasoning is that he refuses to overanalyze an art project that's already been completed and shared with the world. Once it's done, it's done. He believes that picking it apart afterwards serves no purpose except to mess with his own head. For a famously thoughtful and intellectual actor, this is a surprisingly freeing approach. He pours everything into the work, releases it, and then simply walks away without ever looking back. Hold on, because the next two are some of Hollywood's most iconic women. Helena Bonham Carter, the queen of whimsical and dramatic roles, never watches her own films. From Harry Potter to Alice in Wonderland to Enola Holmes, she gives everything to every performance. And many people believe the reason she's able to give so completely is precisely because she never goes back and watches herself. She doesn't get trapped in self-comparison. She doesn't second guess. She just commits fully every single time. And then there's Angelina Jolie, who has said many times that she enjoys the process of making her films far more than watching them. For her, the joy lives entirely in the creating. The collaboration, the emotion, the transformation. Once that part is over, the finished film holds very little interest for her. She'd rather move on to the next adventure than sit and stare at the last one. Let me close out with a couple of quick names that round out this fascinating group. Constance Wu, the crazy rich Asian star, said she avoids watching her newer films because she wants to stay focused on the present and avoid becoming too self-critical. Ben Foster, a deeply respected character actor, avoids his films because he's often disappointed by the final product. He explained that the version of the movie he imagines in his head while filming rarely matches the version that financiers and studios end up shaping in the editing room. That gap between his vision and the final cut is too painful for him to sit through, so he just doesn't. Each of these actors found their own private reason, but they all arrived at the same destination. The screen is for the audience, not for them. So when you put all these stories together, side by side, a powerful pattern starts to emerge. There are really a few core reasons why so many great actors refuse to watch themselves. The first is the fear of breaking the magic. Actors like Johnny Depp and Andrew Garfield believe that watching themselves would destroy something pure and instinctive about their craft. The second is self-protection. Stars like Reese Witherspoon and Megan Fox avoid the screen because watching themselves triggers genuine self-hatred and anxiety. The third is the pursuit of growth. Actors like Joaquin Phoenix and Tom Hanks believe that watching the past would only fill them with regret and make their future work weaker. And the fourth is simple detachment. Legends like Al Pacino and Angelina Jolie just feel the work is finished once it's done, and they'd rather live in the present than dwell on the past. What's truly fascinating is that this goes against everything we assume about famous people. Most of us imagine that actors are vain, that they love seeing themselves blown up 40 feet tall on a movie screen, that they probably watch their own films over and over again just to admire themselves. But the truth is almost the complete opposite. The greater the actor, very often, the less they want to watch, because for them, acting was never about being seen. It was about becoming someone else, the transformation, the emotional truth, the art of disappearing into another human being. Once that transformation is captured on film, their job is done. The watching belongs to us, the audience, not to them. And honestly, there's something kind of beautiful and humble about that. We live in a world now where everybody films everything. We record our meals, our vacations, our random thoughts, just to scroll back and watch ourselves later. We're obsessed with seeing our own reflection in 1,000 different ways. But these actors, the very people who get paid millions to be looked at, want the exact opposite. They give their performance, they pour their soul into it, and then they let it go completely. They trust the work, they release it into the world, and they never look back. In a strange way, they've figured out something the rest of us are still struggling to learn. That sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is create something with all your heart, share it with the world, and then walk away in peace without obsessing over how it looks. So the next time you watch one of your favorite films and you fall in love with an incredible performance, take a quiet moment to remember something. There's a real chance the actor who moved you to tears has never even seen that scene. They don't know exactly how they looked in that emotional moment. They don't know how their voice sounded during that powerful speech. They poured everything into it, walked away, and trusted you, the audience, to receive it. They created the magic. And then they handed it to us to enjoy, while they quietly moved on to the next story waiting to be told. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these confessions surprised you the most? Were you shocked that Joaquin Phoenix won an Oscar for a film he's never even watched? Did Reese Witherspoon's honesty about self-hate touch your heart? Or did Jared Leto going 22 years without watching himself completely blow your mind? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one of them. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next one, where we'll be revealing the strangest things actors have done to prepare for their roles, the wild, extreme, and sometimes dangerous lengths they've gone to just to become their characters. Trust me, you don't want to miss that one. Until then, take care of yourself, create something you're proud of today, and remember, sometimes the most beautiful art is made by people brave enough to let it go. Goodbye, and see you in the next one.